I don't want food. I want a father, whispered the orphaned black girl, her voice quivering with a vulnerability she'd long buried. The words hung in the cool evening air, cutting through the silence like a sharp blade. Maya, a 12-year-old girl who had learned to survive through pain, grief, and abandonment, stood on the dimly lit street, under the flickering glow of a broken streetlight. The rain was falling steadily, soaking her thin jacket, but she barely noticed the cold. She was numb to most things now. The hunger gnawed at her insides, but it wasn't just food she craved. It was something deeper, something that no amount of food or shelter could fill, a father. Her life had been a constant shuffle between foster homes, each one a temporary stop, a fleeting moment in a world that never truly saw her. She was invisible to the system, to the world around her. And though the world kept moving forward, she had been stuck in time, holding on to memories of parents she barely remembered and a family she couldn't seem to find. Her small heart yearned for something she could no longer articulate, someone to love her, to claim her as their own, to call her their daughter. But all she got were empty promises, broken homes, and people who couldn't care enough to stay. Maya didn't want food. She didn't want temporary comfort. She wanted a father. A real father. The kind who would care, who would love her without expectation, who wouldn't walk away. As she stood in the alley, the rain soaking her and mixing with the tears she hadn't realized she was shedding, a figure emerged from the shadows. A stranger. He was tall, his face partially obscured by the brim of his hat and the dark hood of his jacket. But the moment he spoke, Maya froze. "Are you okay?" His voice was low, concerned, and gentle, too gentle for someone who didn't know her, too tender for someone who had no reason to care. Maya didn't answer right away. She just stood there, feeling exposed, vulnerable. The cold wind stung her face, but it wasn't the wind that made her shiver. It was the feeling of being seen, of someone acknowledging her existence. She didn't know what to make of it. Nobody ever bothered asking if she was okay. She was used to being invisible, a shadow in a broken world. "I'm fine," she muttered, wiping the rain from her eyes, unwilling to meet his gaze. She wasn't used to strangers taking an interest. No one ever cared enough to ask. The man didn't leave, though. He stepped closer, lowering his voice as if trying to draw her out of the shell she'd built around herself. "I know you're hungry. Would you like something to eat?" Maya glanced at him, confusion flickering in her eyes. He wasn't offering food out of charity. There was something else in his tone, something sincere, but it unsettled her. His offer, though kind, felt out of place. In her world, kindness wasn't a currency people traded. She shook her head, her heart heavy with something she could hardly name. She wasn't interested in food. Not right now. She didn't want the sandwich or the warmth it promised. She didn't need another temporary solution to fill a void that wasn't about hunger. "I don't want food," she whispered, her voice soft but resolute. "I want a father." The words, so simple and raw, left her mouth before she could stop them. She hadn't meant to say it out loud. But there it was. The truth she'd hidden deep inside for so long. It wasn't just hunger that ate at her. It was the pain of feeling abandoned, unloved, and invisible. The pain of never having the one thing she wanted the most. The man paused, the weight of her words settling between them. He looked at her, his eyes softening, studying her. For a moment, there was a strange silence, almost as if he was trying to process what she had said. Maya felt a flicker of uncertainty. She had never admitted her pain to anyone before, never allowed herself to hope that someone could truly understand. "I'm sorry," the man said, stepping a little closer. His voice was gentle, and this time, his gaze was filled with something that wasn't pity. It was empathy. "You don't have to be sorry," Maya replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She wasn't looking for pity. She didn't want someone's sympathy. She just wanted someone to see her, not for the hungry, lonely child she was, but for who she could be if given the chance. The man's eyes softened as he looked at her, and in his expression, Maya saw something unfamiliar, a glimmer of understanding, of shared pain. Had he been there once, too? Had he known what it felt like to be lost? I may not be able to give you a father, he said after a long pause, but I can give you something to eat. And maybe, just maybe, we can find something that makes things better. Maya's heart raced. It was such a small offer, but it meant something to her. It felt like someone cared, for the first time in a long time. Still, she hesitated. She had been hurt too many times. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford, not when it had been broken so many times before. The stranger seemed to sense her hesitation. I'm not asking for anything in return, he said, his voice calm. I just want to help, if you'll let me. She glanced down at the food he was holding, then back at his face. Something in her gut told her she could trust him. It wasn't a promise of love or family, but it was something. A small act of kindness from someone who didn't have to care. Maya took a deep breath, wiped the rain from her face, and reached out to accept the food. It wasn't what she wanted, but it was a start. Maybe, just maybe, it was enough for now. Thank you, she whispered, looking up at him for the first time. There was something warm in his eyes that made her feel a little less alone. The man smiled, a genuine smile, one that reached his eyes. You're welcome, Maya. And I'll be around, if you ever want to talk. If you need anything. She nodded, still uncertain, still unsure. But as she took the food, she felt a tiny seed of hope take root in her heart. For the first time in a long while, Maya didn't feel so invisible. She didn't know who the stranger was, or why he had come to her, but something told her this moment would change her life. Pause and reflect. What would you do if someone offered you something you've longed for, even when it seemed impossible? Would you accept it, or would you hesitate? Let me know what you would do in the comments below. Maya woke to the soft tap of raindrops against the window. The dim morning light filtered through the cracked blinds, casting long, uneven shadows across her room. For a moment, she allowed herself to simply lie there, listening to the sound of the rain and feeling the weight of the world on her chest. The silence in the room was deafening. Her stomach rumbled, the hunger creeping in, but it wasn't just the physical ache that consumed her. It was the gnawing emptiness inside, something she couldn't quite name but had learned to live with. She wasn't used to having a home. Not really. She'd been in foster care since she was a baby, and each new placement felt like another step closer to nowhere. She didn't belong. Not to the system, not to the families that had taken her in and sent her away. The night before felt like a blur. The stranger, Mr. Davis, had offered her food, but she'd refused. What did she need food for when she was starving for something more? The warmth he'd offered, the kindness in his eyes, it had felt foreign. No one had looked at her like that. No one had ever cared enough to stop, to ask if she was okay. But Mr. Davis, this stranger with his sharp suit and polished demeanor, had seemed so different. And that scared her. Why did he care? She wondered. What did someone like him see in someone like her? Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. Maya's heart skipped. Who could it be? No one ever came for her, not unless they were delivering bad news. Reluctantly, she pulled herself from the bed and shuffled toward the door. When she opened it, she was met by the last person she expected to see. A woman, dressed in a neatly pressed business suit, stood before her, holding a clipboard. Her smile was polite but distant. Maya Thomas, she asked, glancing down at her clipboard. Maya nodded hesitantly, her mind already racing. Who was this? I'm Emily Porter, the woman continued, offering a hand. I'm here on behalf of the Davis Foundation. Mr. Davis sent me to check on you. He's concerned. Maya felt a sharp pang of confusion. The Davis Foundation. The name rang a bell, but she couldn't place it. She was still reeling from the encounter with Mr. Davis the night before, and now this? She barely knew who the man was, and yet here she was, face to face with a representative of his foundation. He sent you? Maya asked, her voice shaky. It felt like a dream. No one ever sent people for her. No one cared enough to check in. She felt a strange mix of disbelief and hope stirring in her chest. Yes, Emily replied, her voice softening as she noticed the uncertainty on Maya's face. Mr. Davis is very concerned about you, Maya. He's been following your story, and he wants to help. We just want to make sure you're okay. Maya couldn't help but feel a rising tide of skepticism. What could someone like Mr. Davis really want with her? What was the catch? No one had ever cared about her enough to follow her story. She had always been a number in the system, a file that got shuffled from place to place. I don't know, Maya muttered, her voice barely a whisper. Why would he care? I'm just another kid in foster care. Another kid who doesn't fit in anywhere. Emily's eyes softened, and she stepped forward. I know it's hard to trust people, especially after everything you've been through. But Mr. Davis isn't like everyone else. He wants to give you a chance. The words hit Maya harder than she expected. She didn't know how to respond. She had never been given a chance. Not the way Mr. Davis seemed to be offering. Maya crossed her arms, a familiar defensive posture. She had learned to protect herself from disappointment, and here, now, she was afraid to hope. What does he want from me? She asked, the question hanging heavy between them. He doesn't want anything from you, Maya, Emily said, her voice quiet but firm. He just wants to help. He believes every child deserves a chance to be seen, to be heard. And he believes you deserve that chance. Maya looked down at her feet, trying to push back the tears that were threatening to fall. She didn't know if she was ready to trust again, to accept help from someone who could just leave her when he was tired of her. Everyone left eventually. I don't need a handout, Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. I don't need charity. Emily nodded, understanding the defensiveness in her words. I get it. But Mr. Davis isn't offering charity. He's offering a chance for something real, something that lasts. There was a long pause as Maya processed what Emily was saying. She wasn't used to hearing such words. She wasn't used to someone caring without wanting something in return. It felt too good to be true. I don't want to be anyone's project, Maya added quietly. I just want someone to be there for me. To not leave. I can't promise that people won't disappoint you, Maya, Emily said gently. But what I can promise is that Mr. Davis won't leave you. He wants to be there for you, if you'll let him. The weight of her words sank into Maya's chest. The idea of trusting again was terrifying, but the more she thought about it, the more she realized she had nothing left to lose. I don't know, Maya whispered, almost to herself. What if I don't deserve it? You do, Emily said, her tone firm. Everyone deserves to be loved. And Mr. Davis has the means to help make that happen. Maya stared at Emily, her mind spinning. She had always been alone, forced to fend for herself, never getting what she needed. Was this the moment it could all change? Could Mr. Davis be different? Could he really offer the kind of family she had dreamed about for so long? Emily's next words broke through her thoughts. I can take you to him. No pressure. Just a conversation. No promises. Maya stood frozen. This was the moment. Was she ready to step into a new world? Could she trust someone who seemed too perfect, too kind, too willing to help? She had never known what it was like to have someone truly care. With a deep breath, Maya finally spoke. "Okay," she said, her voice a mix of hope and uncertainty. "I'll go. But I'm not making any promises." Emily smiled warmly, offering her a hand. "No promises needed. Just a chance. Pause and think, what would you do if a stranger offered you a life you never thought possible? Would you take the leap or walk away? Let me know what you think in the comments below." As Maya walked with Emily, heading toward an unknown future, a small part of her began to hope. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to imagine a life where she wasn't alone. But hope was a dangerous thing. Maya stood at the edge of the sidewalk, watching as Emily drove off, her car disappearing into the misty rain. The soft hum of the city felt distant, muted by the storm that had been threatening all day. She was alone again, but not quite. Not anymore. As she stood there, the envelope in her pocket, the one Mr. Davis had given her earlier, felt like it weighed a ton. Her fingers brushed over the edge of it, but she didn't dare open it. Inside, she knew there was something that could change everything. A chance at a new life. A chance to finally belong. But could she trust it? Could she trust him? The thought of accepting Mr. Davis's offer filled her with unease, like standing at the edge of a cliff, not knowing whether to leap or step back. She had seen the promises before, the empty ones people made to make themselves feel good about helping someone like her. She had accepted those empty words, only to be let down time and time again. And yet, Mr. Davis was different. Wasn't he? She had never met anyone like him. When he had spoken to her, his voice was soft but firm, and his words held a truth she wasn't used to hearing. It wasn't about the money, or the power he obviously had. It wasn't about charity, either. It was about something deeper, something that stirred something within her. Something real. But that was the problem, wasn't it? Everything that was real had always come with pain. Could she risk opening her heart again, only to have it shattered? As if reading her thoughts, her phone buzzed in her pocket, snapping her out of her reverie. She pulled it out, half expecting it to be Emily again, or maybe even Mr. Davis. But it was a text from the group home. "We need to talk about your visit tomorrow. Can you meet me in the office at 3 p.m.? Her stomach sank. The group home had never been kind, and this text didn't feel like it was going to be a warm welcome. It was like they were trying to pull her back into the system, back into the cold, familiar arms of a life she hated. But what about the meeting with Mr. Davis? She didn't know what to do anymore. Every choice she made seemed to take her further from the person she was trying to be. Maya stood there, phone in hand, heart pounding in her chest, torn between what she'd always known and the unknown life that might await her. At 3 p.m., Maya found herself standing in the small, sterile office of the group home manager, Ms. Pearson. The walls were bare, the only decoration being the tired, cracked certificates of qualifications hanging crookedly on the walls. Ms. Pearson sat behind a large desk, her stern expression barely shifting as she glanced over some paperwork. Maya shifted from foot to foot, her nerves making her restless. "Sit down, Maya," Ms. Pearson said curtly, not even looking up. Maya slowly pulled the chair out, taking a seat at the edge of the room, not wanting to seem too eager or too disengaged. She was used to this cold formality. "What is this about?" Maya finally asked, her voice tinged with both uncertainty and suspicion. Ms. Pearson set the paperwork down and finally looked at her, her face hardening. "We've received a request from a very generous benefactor. Someone by the name of Mr. Davis. A philanthropist, I believe." Maya's heart skipped at the mention of Mr. Davis's name. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she had a feeling that things were about to get a lot more complicated. "Mr. Davis is interested in taking you on," Miss Pearson continued, her tone flat. "He wants to mentor you. Take you in as part of his charitable project." Maya's mind raced. Mentor her? Take her in? The offer felt too good to be true. She could almost hear the voice in her head telling her to be cautious. But that voice was slowly being drowned out by the image of what her life could be. A real family. A real chance. "Is this true?" Maya asked, her voice soft, unsure if she really wanted to hear the answer. Ms. Pearson stared at her, her expression unreadable. "It's not that simple, Maya. You have to understand, there are conditions. You would be moving into his estate. This would change your life in ways you can't imagine. But we can't just let anyone walk out of here. There's paperwork to consider, background checks, the whole process." Maya swallowed hard. It was as if she had been thrown into the middle of a storm she couldn't control. "Why me?" she asked, almost to herself. "Why would someone like him want me? What's the catch?" Ms. Pearson raised an eyebrow, her lips curling into a slight, cynical smile. "People like him want what they think they can fix. He sees your potential, Maya. But don't get too comfortable. You're still a project to him." The words hit Maya like a punch to the gut. A project. That was the only way people saw her. Even Mr. Davis, with his kind eyes and comforting words, saw her as someone to be fixed, helped, molded. The old feelings of rejection, the sense of not being good enough, began to resurface, clawing at her heart. "I don't know," Maya whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I can trust him. I don't want to be anyone's project. I just want someone to care for me." Ms. Pearson sighed, looking at Maya with a mix of pity and irritation. "That's what they all want, Maya. The world isn't kind. People don't offer things for free. There's always a reason." But deep down, Maya didn't want to listen to that voice anymore. She wanted to believe in the possibility of something better. She had to make a choice. She could either stay in the same broken system, or she could take a leap of faith and see where Mr. Davis could lead her. That evening, Maya stood outside her foster home, looking at the city lights in the distance. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the fading sun. Her phone buzzed once more, and this time, it was a message from Mr. Davis. "I hope we can talk tomorrow. I'll be waiting." Her heart raced at the thought of seeing him again. She felt drawn to him, but a part of her was terrified. Could she trust him? Could she trust herself? Maya closed her eyes and took a deep breath, stepping into the unknown. She had to know the answer. Pause and reflect. What would you do if someone offered you everything you ever wanted, but the fear of disappointment loomed large? Would you take the chance, or would you walk away? Let me know in the comments below. The next day, the city felt quieter somehow, the weight of the rain that had washed over the streets leaving everything behind in a haunting stillness. Maya's thoughts swirled around the same questions, the same doubts that had taken root deep inside her since she'd met Mr. Davis. Could she really trust him? Could she accept this life he was offering? The uncertainty gnawed at her, twisting her stomach into tight knots that wouldn't loosen. She stood in front of the mirror in her foster room, fingers brushing over the frayed edges of her jacket. The fabric was worn, the seams starting to unravel, just like the life she'd been leading. But today felt different. Today was the day she would finally meet him again. Mr. Davis, the man who had entered her life like a storm, sweeping her up in the possibility of something she had never dared to dream. Her heart was a war zone, torn between wanting to believe that someone could really care, and the ingrained fear that came with letting someone into the fortress she had built around herself. She looked at her phone once more, the text message from Mr. Davis still glowing on the screen. let's meet at 1 p.m. I want to talk about your future. Let's take the first step. Maya let out a breath, feeling her chest tighten. Your future. The words haunted her. She'd been a project before, another face in the system, another kid who was just trying to make it through the day. She wasn't anyone's project anymore. At least, that's what she had told herself. She had learned long ago that people like Mr. Davis, people who had power and money, had no business being in her world. But there he was, offering her more than she could have ever dreamed of. A chance at a new life. At precisely 12:50 p.m., Maya arrived at the address Mr. Davis had sent her. The building was sleek, made of glass and steel, towering above the city like a monument to everything she had never thought she'd have access to. She stood on the sidewalk, staring up at it, feeling small. It wasn't just the height of the building, it was the world it represented. The world of people who had everything and never had to ask for anything. What am I doing here? Maya thought, swallowing hard. She hesitated before pushing through the revolving doors. Inside, everything was immaculate, marble floors, sleek furnishings, modern art adorning the walls. It was the kind of place people only saw in movies or dreamed about. Yet, it felt like another world entirely. Maya. A calm voice called out from across the lobby. Maya turned, her breath catching as she saw Mr. Davis standing near the entrance to an elevator. He looked as composed as ever, dressed in a tailored suit that somehow made him seem even more distant, even more untouchable. But there was warmth in his eyes, a softness in his gaze that made her heart race. You came, he said, his tone filled with relief. She nodded silently, unsure of what to say, unsure of what to feel. He had been waiting for her. The realization hit her like a weight, pressing down on her chest. Thank you for meeting me, Mr. Davis continued, his smile genuine. I know this might feel overwhelming, but I want you to know, Maya, that nothing is expected of you. Today is just a conversation. No pressure. Maya nodded again, her throat tight. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say, she admitted, her voice small. Mr. Davis smiled and gestured for her to follow him. Let's sit down. I think we have a lot to talk about. They stepped into a private office, far from the glitz and glamour of the lobby. This room was more intimate, with soft lighting and shelves filled with books and framed photographs. It felt warmer here, more personal. And for the first time, Maya felt like she could actually breathe. Once seated across from each other, Mr. Davis leaned forward slightly. I know you're probably wondering why I'm doing this, he said, his tone gentle yet filled with purpose. Why me? Why now? Maya looked up at him, her face a mixture of curiosity and wariness. She was ready for the explanation, but at the same time, a small part of her didn't want to hear it. She was tired of explanations, tired of people's reasons for offering her things that came with conditions. Why me? She asked quietly. I don't understand. I'm just another kid. Another number in the system. I've been let down so many times before. Mr. Davis nodded thoughtfully. I understand why you feel that way. But let me explain. You see, Maya, I've been involved in charity work for a long time. I've helped countless kids like you, but when I read your story, something about it resonated with me. It wasn't just about providing financial support, it was about something deeper. It was about you. The person you are. The potential you have. Maya shifted in her seat, not sure if she could hear this. The idea that she had potential was so foreign to her that it felt like a distant dream. No one had ever told her she had potential. In fact, she had been told the opposite more times than she cared to remember. I don't think you understand what I'm offering, Mr. Davis continued, his eyes softening. I'm not just offering you a home, or money, or food. I'm offering you the chance to be part of something that matters. I want to be that father figure you've been missing. I want to give you the love and stability you deserve. Maya's heart thudded loudly in her chest. The room felt suddenly too small, too heavy. She had never heard anyone say something like that to her before. A father figure. Someone who would actually stay. The weight of his words settled deep in her bones, and her mind spun in circles. But Maya stammered, shaking her head. Why me? Why would you want to help me? Mr. Davis smiled warmly, as if this were the question he had been waiting for. Because, Maya, I believe in second chances. I believe that everyone deserves the opportunity to rewrite their story. And I believe in you. There it was. The one thing she had been afraid of hearing. He believed in her. She had never believed in herself, not like this. Could she really accept someone's belief in her? Could she open herself up to this life, to the love he was offering, without fear that it would slip away? You don't have to decide anything today, Mr. Davis said, sensing her hesitation. You can take your time. Just know that I'm here. And whenever you're ready, we'll take the next step together. Maya stared at him for a long time, her heart a tangle of emotions she couldn't quite name. The truth was, she did want to trust him. She did want to believe in the possibility of a family. But could she really take that leap? Could she trust someone who had the power to change her life, someone who might end up leaving when it got too hard? She didn't know. But one thing was certain, this was a chance. A chance to be more than just a forgotten child. A chance to belong. I don't know what to say, Maya whispered, the weight of the moment sinking in. But I'm willing to try. Pause and reflect. If you were Maya, would you take the leap of faith and trust Mr. Davis? Or would you walk away, afraid of being hurt again? Let me know what you think in the comments below. As Maya sat there, feeling the enormity of the decision weighing on her, she realized that no matter what came next, she was no longer alone. Mr. Davis wasn't offering her a perfect life, he was offering her something far rarer, the chance to be seen, to be loved, and to finally have the family she had always dreamed of. The following morning, Maya stood at the window of her small room, staring at the world outside with a heavy heart. The rain had stopped, but the clouds still lingered, casting a dull gray over the city. She had tossed and turned all night, her mind racing, unable to find peace. The offer from Mr. Davis sat like a weight in her chest. She couldn't stop thinking about it, but she couldn't bring herself to fully embrace it either. She had spent so long hiding from the possibility of something real, of a life different from the one she'd been handed. She was scared, terrified, really, of what would happen if she allowed herself to trust someone again. Mr. Davis had shown her kindness, a kindness she wasn't sure she deserved. He had promised her a better life, a family. But could she really take that leap? Could she trust him without fear of disappointment? No one had ever stayed before. No one had ever cared that much. The phone in her hand buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. The screen lit up with a text from Emily Porter. Mr. Davis is waiting to hear from you. If you're ready, let me know. Maya clenched the phone tightly. She wanted to say yes. She wanted to accept the opportunity and walk into a future where she wasn't alone. But the fear of what that might mean for her, the possibility that she would be nothing more than another project to him, held her back. Could she bear the weight of the life he was offering? Could she trust someone with her heart again? She shook her head, the ache in her chest growing stronger. No, she couldn't. She couldn't allow herself to be vulnerable like that. Not again. With a deep breath, she typed a quick reply to Emily, I'm not ready. Please tell Mr. Davis thank you, but I can't accept the offer. Maya hit send before she could change her mind, her fingers trembling. The words felt final, like a door slamming shut on something that could have been. Hours passed in a blur as Maya tried to occupy herself with anything that could distract her from the decision she had made. She cleaned her room, organized her belongings, and even tried to watch a few videos on her phone. But nothing seemed to matter. The message she had sent, the decision she had made, weighed on her, and the silence in her room felt suffocating. As the evening drew near, Maya received another unexpected knock on her door. She wasn't expecting anyone, and her heart sank as she wondered if it might be Emily, coming to convince her to change her mind. But when she opened the door, she was met with the last person she expected to see. Standing in the hallway, looking calm yet determined, was Mr. Davis. "Maya," he said softly, his voice filled with quiet concern. "May I come in?" Maya's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't anticipated seeing him again, not like this, not after she had rejected his offer. Her stomach twisted in knots as she stepped aside, allowing him to enter. She didn't know what to say to him, what to do with the flood of emotions that had overtaken her. You came," she whispered, her voice breaking slightly. I thought you would just walk away." Mr. Davis looked at her with a mix of understanding and patience. "I could never just walk away from you, Maya," he said gently, his tone warm but firm. "I understand you have your doubts. But you have to know, this isn't about me wanting to fix you or make you into something you're not. This is about me wanting to be there for you, to give you the chance at the life you deserve." Maya swallowed hard, trying to hold back the tears that were threatening to spill. "I don't deserve anything," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I've never had anything real. Everyone who promised me something better ended up leaving. I'm not a project, Mr. Davis. I'm not something you can fix." Mr. Davis's eyes softened, and he took a step closer to her, his presence comforting yet undeniable. "Maya, you're not broken. You're not a project. I see a young woman who's been through more than most people her age, and still, you have so much strength. You've carried a lot on your own for so long, but that doesn't mean you have to keep carrying it alone." Maya shook her head, trying to push the emotions back. I can't just trust you. I can't trust anyone. I don't know how." He stepped forward, gently placing a hand on her shoulder, his voice steady but full of compassion. "Trust isn't something that happens overnight. I don't expect you to trust me right away. But what I'm offering is real. I'm here, Maya. And I'm not going anywhere." The sincerity in his voice broke something inside her, a wall she had carefully constructed over the years to protect herself from more pain. She looked up at him, and for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was someone who truly wanted to be there for her. "I'm scared," Maya whispered, her eyes welling with tears. "I'm scared of being hurt again. I'm scared of hoping, only to have it all fall apart." "I understand," Mr. Davis replied softly. "But I promise you, Maya, I'm not going to hurt you. I'll be here, and I'll help you find your way. But only if you're ready. Only if you trust me to walk beside you." The words felt like a weight being lifted from her chest. She didn't know if she was ready, but the more Mr. Davis spoke, the more she felt a warmth inside, a small flicker of hope that she hadn't allowed herself to feel in so long. She stood there for a long moment, tears streaming down her face as the fear she had carried for so long began to melt away. She had spent her whole life waiting for someone to care enough to stay, and now, for the first time, she was standing in front of someone who wanted to be there. Maybe it wasn't too late for her after all. Maya looked up at Mr. Davis, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared, but I'm willing to try. I'll trust you." A smile spread across Mr. Davis's face, a smile that made her heart feel lighter, even just for a moment. "You don't have to trust me all at once, Maya. But I'm here. And that's the first step. Pause and reflect. What would you do if someone gave you the chance to finally trust again? Would you take the leap or hold back out of fear? Let me know what you would do in the comments below. The days following Maya's decision felt like a whirlwind. At first, it had been hard to believe that Mr. Davis's promise was real, that his offer of a new life wasn't just another fleeting moment of kindness that would disappear as quickly as it had come. But as the days passed, and as he followed through on his every word, Maya began to feel something new stirring inside her, a feeling that made her both afraid and hopeful at once. She stood in front of a mirror, adjusting the new clothes Mr. Davis had bought for her. It was the first time she'd worn something that wasn't handed down or too big for her, something that actually fit. The soft fabric of the shirt felt different against her skin, as if she had stepped into a life she had never even dreamed was possible. It had been a week since she had agreed to stay with Mr. Davis. He had brought her into his world, introduced her to the estate she would be living in, and even taken her to meet his team, the people who would help guide her through this new chapter. The mansion, though intimidating at first, felt like a refuge. The high ceilings and vast, open spaces didn't make her feel small. Instead, they made her feel seen. For the first time, Maya wasn't afraid to breathe. But even in this new world, her doubts crept in like shadows, hiding just outside her reach. She didn't know how to let herself trust the life she was being offered, and she certainly didn't know how to be part of it without the fear of ruining it all. She had been abandoned too many times to truly believe that a family could be real, and while Mr. Davis was kind and patient, there were moments when Maya's heart would twist at the thought that maybe he would get tired of her. Maybe he would decide she wasn't worth the effort. Maybe, just like everyone else, he would leave. Maya shook her head, trying to push those thoughts aside. She had made a choice. She had taken a chance on something real. And she was determined not to let her fear dictate what came next. That afternoon, Mr. Davis asked Maya to meet him in the garden. It was a warm, sunny day, the kind of day that felt inviting and full of promise. The garden was lush with flowers, the fragrance of jasmine and lavender mingling in the air, and Maya felt a strange peace settle over her as she stepped outside. Mr. Davis was sitting on one of the stone benches under a massive oak tree, his figure framed by the vibrant colors of the flowers around him. He was watching her, waiting for her to join him. His expression was calm, but there was something in his eyes, a kind of hope, a kind of trust, that made Maya's heart skip a beat. "Come sit with me, Maya," he said, his voice soft but inviting. She hesitated for just a moment, then walked over to the bench. As she sat down beside him, she couldn't help but feel like something had shifted between them in the last few days. There was a quiet connection building, one that felt steady and real. Mr. Davis wasn't just offering her a place to stay, he was offering her a chance to have a family. But what did it mean to have a family, Maya wondered. What did it mean to belong? "I've been thinking about your future," Mr. Davis said, turning to face her. "You've been through so much, Maya. I know it hasn't been easy, but I want to help you become the person you've always dreamed of being. I believe in you." The sincerity in his voice made Maya's heart ache. She had never heard words like this before, not in her life. The words of encouragement felt like a balm on the wounds she had carried for so long. "Why do you believe in me?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why do you care?" Mr. Davis took a deep breath, as though choosing his words carefully. "I believe in you because I see something in you that's worth believing in. I see strength, resilience, and a heart that's capable of more than it realizes. But more than that, I care because you deserve to have someone in your corner. You deserve a chance to have the life you've always dreamed of." Maya turned her head away, unsure of how to respond. She didn't know how to accept such kindness, such belief. It was foreign to her, and yet, it felt like something she had always longed for. "I'm not used to this," Maya admitted, her voice breaking. I don't know how to accept this kind of care. I'm afraid of trusting it, afraid of getting hurt again. Mr. Davis leaned forward slightly, his voice low and comforting. I know it's hard, Maya. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for you, for the long haul. This is your chance to build something real, to have the kind of family you've always wanted. But it starts with trusting that you deserve it. Maya's breath caught in her throat as his words sank in. I deserve it. For the first time, she allowed herself to think that maybe, just maybe, she did. She wasn't a mistake. She wasn't a burden. She was someone worth caring for. I don't want to be alone anymore, Maya said quietly, her voice trembling as she spoke the truth she had never dared to admit. I don't want to feel invisible. You're not invisible, Maya, Mr. Davis said softly, placing a reassuring hand on hers. You've never been invisible. Not to me. As the afternoon passed, they sat there together in the garden, the warmth of the sun mixing with the cool breeze, and for the first time, Maya felt like she could breathe without fear. She wasn't alone. She had someone who cared. She had a family, even if it wasn't the family she had imagined. Over the next few weeks, Maya's life with Mr. Davis began to change in ways she hadn't anticipated. She was no longer just a girl in the system, a forgotten child. She was a daughter, his daughter. Slowly but surely, Mr. Davis began teaching her things she never thought she'd know, how to trust, how to accept love, and how to allow herself to dream again. But it wasn't always easy. There were moments when the fear would come back, like a shadow that hovered just out of reach. Moments when Maya would pull back, unsure if she could truly believe that something good could last. She had been hurt before. She had been abandoned before. But with each passing day, the bond between her and Mr. Davis grew stronger. Slowly, family began to mean something different to Maya. It wasn't about wealth or possessions, it was about trust, love, and the people who would never let her go. Pause and reflect. If you were Maya, how would you feel about learning to trust again after everything you've been through? Would you be able to accept love, or would the fear of abandonment always haunt you? Let me know what you think in the comments below. The morning sun poured into the room, casting a soft, golden glow over Maya's face. She woke slowly, feeling the warmth of the sunlight on her skin, and for the first time in a long while, she felt at peace. She stretched, her body feeling lighter than it had in years. The pain in her chest, the weight of loneliness she had carried for as long as she could remember, seemed to have lifted, replaced by something different, something she didn't know how to name. But she knew what it was. It was love. And it was real. For the first time, Maya didn't feel like an outsider in her own life. She didn't feel like a project, a charity case, or an unwanted child. Mr. Davis had given her more than just a roof over her head. He had given her something she had never thought she'd have, a family. Not one defined by blood, but one built on care, trust, and genuine connection. Over the past few weeks, they had gotten closer, both of them slowly letting their walls down. Mr. Davis had become more than a benefactor to her. He had become a father. Not in the way she had imagined or expected, but in a way that felt right. His patience, his quiet strength, and his willingness to stay had shown her what it truly meant to be loved. But that wasn't all. Maya had changed, too. She had begun to see herself differently. She had stopped thinking of herself as broken or unworthy of love. Mr. Davis's constant encouragement had helped her see that she was more than the system's label. She was strong. She was capable. She was someone who deserved all the things she had once thought were out of her reach. Her eyes moved toward the window, where the soft breeze swayed the curtains. The house, Mr. Davis's mansion, as she had come to think of it, felt different now. It wasn't just a place of refuge anymore. It was home. It was her home. And for the first time, Maya felt like she belonged. Later that morning, Mr. Davis knocked on her door, a gentle tap that made her smile. He had a way of knocking that was soft yet filled with purpose, like he always respected the space she needed, but never hesitated to offer his presence when she was ready. "Morning, Maya," he said, stepping into the room with a cup of tea in hand. "I thought you might like some tea before we head out today." Maya's smile widened. "Thanks, Mr. Davis. I really appreciate it." He sat down on the edge of the bed, his eyes kind and warm, as if he were seeing her for the first time every day. He had that effect on her, making her feel like she was worthy of his attention, of his love. It was still a little strange to her, but it felt more natural now. More real. "How are you feeling today?" he asked, watching her closely. Maya paused for a moment, thinking about the question. "I'm good. I feel at peace. More than I've ever felt." Mr. Davis's eyes softened. "I'm glad to hear that. I know it hasn't been easy, but you're doing great. I'm proud of you." Her heart fluttered at his words. Proud of me? She had never heard that before. She had always been told what she couldn't do, what she wasn't capable of. But here was Mr. Davis, telling her that he was proud of her. And in that moment, she realized something: she was starting to be proud of herself, too. There was a pause between them, a quiet moment that felt comfortable. Then, Mr. Davis spoke again, his voice steady but serious. "I've been thinking a lot about what's next for you, Maya. About what you want out of your future." Maya's pulse quickened at the thought. She had been avoiding this conversation. She didn't know what her future looked like, not really. She had never been given the chance to think about it in any meaningful way. She had been too busy surviving, just trying to make it through the day. But now, with Mr. Davis here, offering her a chance at something more, she had to confront it. "I don't know what I want yet," Maya admitted, looking down at her hands. "I've never had a chance to think about my future. I've just been trying to get by." "You don't have to know everything right away," Mr. Davis said gently. "But I do want you to know that whatever you decide, I'm here. We'll figure it out together." Maya felt a tear slip down her cheek, the overwhelming emotion of the past few weeks finally catching up with her. Together. That word, spoken so casually, carried more weight than anything else. It meant she wasn't alone. It meant that, no matter what happened, Mr. Davis would be there for her. And, for the first time, she believed him. "I don't know how to thank you," Maya whispered, her voice cracking. "I don't know how to even begin to say how much this means." Mr. Davis smiled, his hand gently resting on hers. "You don't need to thank me, Maya. I'm just doing what anyone would do. But I'm glad to see you starting to believe in yourself. That's the most important thing." Later that afternoon, Maya and Mr. Davis went for a walk around the estate. It was a beautiful, clear day, the sun high in the sky. Maya marveled at the vibrant colors of the flowers in the garden and the vastness of the property. It was a world she had never imagined she could be a part of. But as they walked side by side, she realized that this wasn't just about the house or the money or the charity, it was about something deeper. It was about family. "I know it's a lot to take in," Mr. Davis said, breaking the silence. "But I'm not asking you to accept everything at once. We'll take this one step at a time. You don't have to figure it all out right now." Maya nodded slowly, taking in his words. "I want to try. I want to be part of this family. I never thought it was possible, but now I see that it could be. I just need to know if I can really do it." "You can," Mr. Davis said, his voice firm and full of conviction. "You've already done the hardest part. You've trusted. And that's what matters most. Maya smiled through her tears, feeling the weight of everything she had carried for so long finally begin to lift. She had spent years running from the idea of family, afraid it would never be real. But here, with Mr. Davis, it was real. She could feel it in the way he treated her, in the way he spoke to her, in the way he had always kept his word. She didn't have to be afraid anymore. She had found a father. Pause and think, if you were Maya, how would you feel about accepting a family after everything you've been through? What would it take to truly trust and believe that it could be real? Let me know what you think in the comments below. As they continued their walk through the garden, Maya felt lighter, as if the weight she had carried for so long was finally starting to dissipate. Family wasn't about blood or wealth, it was about love, trust, and the people who chose to stay, even when things were hard. And Maya knew, as she walked beside Mr. Davis, that this was only the beginning of something beautiful.